This video was brought to you by Nebula. This week it was reported that a Ukrainian woman had allegedly colluded with the Russians to give them information about President Volodymyr Zelenskyy's planned trip to the flooded city of Mykolaiv at the end of July. The Ukrainian Security Service, or SBU, claimed that she had gathered information about the city to help the Russians plan an airstrike that could kill the president. While her plan was foiled and she was caught red-handed, this does raise an uncomfortable question. What happens if these plans are successful and Zelenskyy is assassinated? Before we start, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing and ringing the bell to stay in the loop and be notified when we release new videos. Plans to assassinate Zelenskyy have been reported ever since the start of the war in Ukraine. In February 2022, the president's advisor, Mikhail Podolyak, announced that there had been at least a dozen attempts on Zelenskyy's life. This included attempts by Chechens and Wagner Group mercenaries. One specific instance of an assassination attempt occurred in the first few hours of the war. President Zelenskyy has recalled that, just before dawn on the 24th of February, the bombing started and it became clear that he and his family were in danger. He was told that Russian strike teams had parachuted into Kyiv and told to kill or capture him and his family. The Presidential Guard secured his building, although it was reported that some of the fortifications simply resembled a pile of scrap. This attempt clearly stuck with the president, as Politico has reported that Zelenskyy opened a Zoom call with US senators around this time with a statement that that might be the last time that they see him alive. Now, it might be assumed that the desire of Russians to assassinate Zelenskyy has subsided in the last year of the war, perhaps assuming that other targets would be more worthwhile. However, in March of this year, when Ukraine invaded 2 Russian border villages, there were renewed calls from inside Russia for a new effort to be made to try and eliminate the Ukrainian president. Most notably, Mikhail Delyagin said that the only normal response to the attack on the villages was the immediate elimination of Zelenskyy. These incidents, coupled with the incident this week that we outlined in the intro, should demonstrate that not only has the assassination of Zelenskyy been a key concern in the war, but it remains so. Now, while Ukraine obviously has provisions both to try and prevent this from happening and plans for it if it does happen, it should be noted that Zelenskyy has tried to make clear that his fear of such an eventuality isn't something he thinks about a lot. He said that if I were thinking about it constantly, I would just shut myself down, very much like Putin now, who doesn't leave his bunker. He added that, of course, my bodyguards should think about how to prevent this from happening, and this is their task. I don't think about it. Now, while it would be good to look into the specific plans of how Ukraine keeps the president safe, understandably these plans are secret, as if the Russians knew them, they could attempt to try and find weak spots in it. The only thing we do know is that any trips abroad are planned in secrecy, so that Putin and the Russians can't use the opportunity to their advantage. This was highlighted most notably in February of this year, when the European People's Party announced on their social media that they were looking forward to welcoming the president. This tweet was taken down, but almost caused the trip to be cancelled. So, now that we've established that the president has had some narrow escapes already, and that precautions are taken to try and keep him safe, what happens if these precautions fail and the Ukrainian president is assassinated? Well, like many other countries, Ukraine has continuity of government plans so that their country can continue functioning in the event of an assassination. However, again, due to the fact that the war is ongoing and such plans being known could aid the Russian war effort, many of these plans remain classified. However, we do know details about arguably the most important aspect of the continuity of government, the line of succession. Like many other countries, the Ukrainian constitution stipulates that in the event of the death of the president, the Speaker of the Verkhovna Rada, the Ukrainian parliament, takes on the role of president. The current speaker is Ruslan Stefanchuk, someone who has been very close to Zelenskyy ever since he was first elected president in 2019. In fact, Stefanchuk has been seen as the ideologue of Zelenskyy's 2019 election campaign. This close proximity to the previous leader would likely help him with legitimacy in the top job. And to be fair, this is something he would need, as his trust ratings are actually about half that of President Zelenskyy. In peacetime, it's likely that Stefanchuk's elevation to president could sow further division, with opposition lawmakers trying to undermine the weak position of an unelected president. However, in war, there is a significant rally around the flag effect. Adrian Karatnicki, a senior fellow at the Atlantic Council's Eurasia Centre, told Politico that the country has reached a point of very substantial solidarity and national unity. So if something terrible happened to Zelenskyy, it would not be as decisive as you might think. So this is what would happen if Zelenskyy was killed. But many countries plan beyond just the assassination of their president. They often establish a line of succession, so that even in the event of the assassination of the president and their potential replacement, the government could still function. In Ukraine, this is an important question because of the close proximity of President Zelenskyy and Speaker Stefanchuk, as he's remained in Kiev throughout the war. Western officials have reportedly urged Ukrainian officials to relocate Stefanchuk as a precaution, something that the Ukrainian government has so far resisted. So it's worth going through what actually does happen if both Zelenskyy and Stefanchuk are assassinated. There is actually a bit of confusion as to what happens in this scenario. The Constitution stipulates that the First Deputy and Deputy Chairperson will replace the Speaker if they're elevated to the presidency, but it does not specify that they're next in the line of succession. When both the President, Zelenskyy, and the Speaker fell ill with COVID in 2020, some legal scholars argued that the Prime Minister would be the next in the line of succession. But this was never fully resolved. So, if both the President and the Speaker were killed, Ukraine would have to resolve this argument of succession as quickly as possible. Now, it's hard to know how much national debate would be had about this, but given that this would happen during the war, it's likely that the successor would be agreed upon swiftly. Once decided, a similar rally around the flag effect would likely be observed. So it should go without saying that President Zelenskyy has been invaluable to the war effort in Ukraine, both in building morale in Ukraine and soliciting support from the West. In the event that he was assassinated, however, plans are in place and the government would continue its work. Ukraine isn't the only country having to deal with this, though, with historic successful assassinations spooking leaders world over. In fact, we discuss a variety of assassinated world leaders and the plots that killed them in today's Nebula Daily Discussion, because it doesn't fit in this video and because YouTube probably would censor it anyway. The TLDR writing team hosts these daily discussions most days, diving deeper into a news story we write about, and unpacking the hidden details that they found fascinating, but that were either too long or too academic to make it into the final script. If you want to check this series out, you can find the episodes exclusively on Nebula. The best news is that Nebula is less than £2 a month and provides you with ad-free and exclusive videos from TLDR and a ton of incredible content from other creators like Johnny Harris, Real Life Law, and Legal Eagle. Check it out by clicking the link in the description and make sure you use our link so they know that you came from us.